So is van life better or is boat life better? We just finished a 3-week road trip in this van, and I'm gonna compare it to one of our first passages that we ever made with our boat. Let me close this door. The ocean is really loud. We're gonna break down every single category, from the costs, to the crew, to the repairs, to the spaciousness, to the food, to the shopping, and even the variety of fun, and see which one comes out on top. Let's start with spaciousness. Now, the boat is definitely way bigger than the van. You can fit about 7 of these vans inside of our boat. We have 4 kids, so there's typically 6 of us in this van at all times. It gets pretty crowded, but everyone's still under 12, so they're small and it still works. But once they're bigger, we'll definitely need a bigger van. First point goes to Boatlife. On a boat, there's typically more people because you need to bring crew. So on this passage, we've got my wife and 3 of the kids. And for crew, we've got my buddy Tom the Kiwi.
Hello, Tom.
Hi.
What's on the menu today?
Fish.
And one of our patrons, Stephen McLeod. We're leaving on our passage to this epic island chain off of the eastern coast of Panama called the San Blas Islands. We have all hands on deck. Everyone's looking for reefs. So there's a reef just off to the side. The charts in this area aren't very accurate, so we're just trying not to crash into anything. Sailing in a place you're not familiar with is kind of like driving in really dense fog. Eventually, we make it to open water, and everyone gets to go to sleep because Steve's got first watch, I got first nap. In a van, you don't need crew, of course. You just need one person to drive. In our case, that's usually Mary. She does pretty much all the driving. It also doesn't take as long to get there. In this past 3 weeks, we went from Texas to the east coast of the US, back to Texas, to the southern border of the US in New Mexico, all the way up to Northern California, down into Vegas, and then back to Texas. We did 6,000 miles. That same 6,000 miles would have taken like 45 days on a boat. And that's if you're sailing nonstop. It takes forever to get anywhere on a boat because you're literally moving at jogging speed. This right here, this is 5.5 knots. This is how fast you sail. It takes a really long time to go anywhere. This sail to San Blas took us about 9 hours to do just about 40 miles. But in a boat, you get to hang out while you sail because you only need one person at the helm making sure you don't crash into anything. But before we get into all that, I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. Don't fast forward yet. Surfshark is a VPN that encrypts all of the data between your computer and the internet. It swaps your location with the location of one of their 3,200 servers over 100 countries. You're probably thinking, well, I don't need that. What am I going to use a VPN for? Well, let me tell you. When I was in French Polynesia, Venmo wouldn't let me sign in, which means I couldn't pay the lawn guy. Enter Surfshark, pick Houston, Texas, and boom, it thinks I'm home and lets me log in. And even when we're at home in Texas, I use Surfshark to make it look like I'm in the UK to unlock a whole new world of Netflix. Before they reached out to us to do this sponsorship, I actually already bought 2 years worth of Surfshark with my own money. What sold me was that one account can be used on all of your devices. We currently use it on all these iPhones and iPads, these 2 PCs, these 3 MacBooks, and even this Apple Vision Pro. So at $2.20 a month, I'm paying like 12 cents each to protect all of my devices. Right now, you can get an extra 4 months free by going to the link below, surfshark.com/David Shee. You've got 30 days to see if Surfshark's for you, and if for any reason it's not, they'll give you your money back. In a van, you're just bored out of your mind waiting to get there, but on a boat, you can hang out and do epic things like yes, fish! Every single time we get to this point, fish jumps off. I've never, ever caught a fish on this boat, ever. We're planning on being here for 4 days. We've got 2 pounds of hamburger meat and a few sausages. So we need this fish. See if you want to grab that. What do you think it is?
Oh, it's a wahoo.
It's a wahoo?
Huge wahoo.
Oh my god, dude, that sucker's huge! Look at that! No freaking way!
this.
Look at that guy. Look at him. Oh my goodness. That's nuts. Oh my God.
Holy
What now? What do you do now?
Gosh, we caught something. We got a fish.
The first fish that you catch on your boat, you have to eat the heart.
I'm scared to get that blood on my face.
No, you don't have to put the blood on your face. We're gonna rub the blood all over Tom's face. Oh God! Yeah! It's all over my face. The boat wins this one. Fishing en route, come on. Because of this, I thought fishing was gonna be super easy, but I've never caught anything similar since. Catching a fish is definitely not something you can do while driving, unless you're this guy. On the upside, when you're driving, you can stop and park wherever you want. Like, we're literally parked on a beach right now, and we've slept in parking lots, in parks, in campsites, on the side of the road. So we got Chichime all the way back there, and Hollandaise Cays up front. That's where we're going. Of the 365 islands in the San Blas, Tom claims that this is the best one. Now we just need to find a place to park. In a boat, it's not that easy to park. You have to anchor, and you have to find the perfect place to anchor. And that perfect place depends on how the bottom is. Is it sand? Is it mud? Is there vegetation? First, you have to make a few laps and scope out the area for hazards. We just did that. Then you have to get the bridle ready. That's what connects the boat to the anchor chain. After you drop the anchor, which is the easiest part, you lean over precariously and connect the bridle to the chain. Then you back up slowly to set the anchor, and if it doesn't set, you pull it back up, go around, and do it all over again. Sometimes you get to do it 3 or 4 times. Then you set a GPS anchor alarm that warns you if you start to drift away, but it doesn't really matter because you end up worrying about it all night anyways. We got the anchor out, a whole lot of chain because there's a reef right there. So we're waiting to see where we settle. And then what happens when the wind changes or the current shifts? Are you gonna crash into all the boats around you? The absolute worst thing that can happen when you're anchored is the wind blows you loose, and then you drag your anchor all the way into a reef, which then sinks your boat. The boat is infinitely harder to park, so point to Vanlife. It's just so much easier to park in a van. We pull over on the side of the road to sleep all the time. Speaking of sleeping, let's back up a bit so I can show you the sleeping arrangements on the van versus the boat. This boat has 4 cabins that sleep 2 people each. That's 8 people that fit on this boat, except for our 2 forward cabins were packed full of stuff from all the repairs we were doing. So we were left with 2 beds in the back, 5 people had to fit in one, and Tom and Steven in the other. Since Tom used to be a carpenter, I asked him to build me a loft before we left.
Yeah.
Getting the materials is half the job when you're trying to build something in a remote location. And we're in the jungles of Panama here, so there's not exactly a Home Depot around. But the village next to the marina did have a convenience store, and they sold wood. What is the plan? How are we gonna build this?
So we're just going to build like a floating frame on one side, sitting on the other. Probably 5 joists and then ply on the top, and that should hold up 3 kids.
I was expecting a very temporary, possibly rickety structure just to give us a little more space while we had crew aboard. It was only supposed to last 3 weeks, but Tom and Steve did such an awesome job. We actually ended up keeping it, and the kids still sleep on it today. Bunk bed tour!
Here it is.
Nice. Nice. Oh, dude, it's got you.
You kind of want it to break down there.
There you go.
Don't get that while
In the van, we have to convert almost every single surface into a bed. I too built a bunk in the van just before this road trip actually.
Oh, my butt hurts so much.
It's 3/8 inch plywood, just thick enough so it flexes but won't snap, and I patterned it to fit perfectly around the top of the existing seats. It's been a continuous process of modifying this van to fit my wife's constantly changing mind, but that's gonna be the same in a boat too.
You're strong like bull.
Dee boy, would you like to do the honors?
Yes.
There.
We did it.
This is the loft that I built in under 30 minutes. It locks in perfectly to these seatbelt pillars. It's just thick enough so it can hold my weight which means it won't fall and crush my daughter who sleeps underneath.
Go up there or go down there. I can make a bed right here. Go.
Oh my god, let's not kid ourselves. He just cut some notches in a piece of wood. Maybe goes in the first spot because she does karate in her sleep and she kicks hard. Boo goes on David's precious loft because he doesn't roll, so he won't fall off. Dee Boy's still little, so he fits in the walkway. And Shelby Cobra gets her very own room underneath David and me. It's way harder to sleep in the van, so the boat wins this category by a long shot. The kids are usually pretty exhausted by this point, but I still make David set up this night vision Wi-Fi camera.
That way we can keep an eye on the kids while we do date night and shopping at Target. But if they do wake up, they've got phones so they can call us. But they're usually sound asleep before we even leave. That right there is our nightly routine, and I really look forward to it. It's kind of like a mini date night every single night because we don't really do like weekly date nights anymore. It gives us a chance to get away from the kids and decompress a little bit. But it's more out of necessity because we only have a small fridge and just a few places to stash food, so we have to restock all the time. Shopping is kind of the opposite in Boatlife because most of the remote places you go to don't have stores at all. There are no stores in these San Blas Islands. You have to bring everything you need with you unless you're buying it from the locals out of their canoe, boat side. Steven's doing a little shopping out here. These things are called
Mola.
They're asking $20 each. I'm sure we could have negotiated, but Steve is super generous and bought two. Gracias. We really don't shop that much on the boat, but when we do go shopping, we go big. We're talking like 5 shopping carts big, 32 bags, and you need wheelbarrows big. Come on, get to work, people. Good job. It's a whole ordeal and takes all day long because after you get it home, you still have to find places to stash it all. I gotta give it to Vanlife on this one because it's technically easier to shop while vanlifing. The van is way cheaper than the boat. There's no two ways about it. This is a 2015 Ford Transit, medium roof, medium length, and it cost us $25K when we bought it used with 35,000 miles on it. The boat cost $305K. That was the cheapest Lagoon 450 I could find. The van cost about $10,000 to build out. The boat cost about $40,000 to repair. That's like 10 times the price. Now, do you get 10 times the fun out of the boat? Like, no, there's no way, right? The van is magnitudes cheaper, so I gotta give it 2 points. Which brings us to how much fun can be had. The 2 things I used to think about while fantasizing about boat life was us being able to jump off the boat whenever we wanted to and swim in exotic places. And we did a lot of that in San Blas. And the second thing was being able to spearfish all the time, instead of having to get on a plane, fly to Mexico, spearfish twice before having to wait another year to do it all again. Spearfishing is one of the best kinds of fun because it's a productive kind of fun. It's not only exciting while you're doing it, but it's so satisfying afterwards because you actually accomplished something. Like catch these delicious lobster. I don't know what it is.
I guess we have lunch here.
I didn't know that's what they were at the time because they didn't have any claws, but they definitely tasted like lobster.
No.
The rest of the time there we spent swimming between islands or floating around doing nothing at all. But it's the contrast that made all of it so much more enjoyable. The fun that you get to experience is definitely a little bit more unique on the boat. But I'd argue there's more variety of adventure in a van, but only because you can get to more places faster. During this van life trip, we hung out with family in Alabama, went to Dollywood and Gatlinburg in Tennessee, made a pit stop in Texas to build a loft, picked up a sail stashed in a storage unit in New Mexico, filmed some robots delivering food in Arizona, drove through the smoke from the LA fires, went biking through San Francisco, walked the Salt Flats in Death Valley, which is 282 feet below sea level. Then we hung out in a sweet hotel room in Las Vegas, drove high up into the mountains to get to Angel Fire just to ski in -8-degree weather, filmed some more robots delivering food in Dallas, drove all the way back home to Texas, all in 3 weeks, and we just couldn't have done all of that if we were on the boat. It's the classic quality versus quantity debate here. Another tie because it just depends on what you're looking for. In 6,000 miles of driving, this crack is the only thing that broke during our whole trip. Maintenance on a boat runs about 10% of the cost of your boat, so that's about $35K a year. This van takes about $500 of oil changes and fluid changes and tire replacement per year. But more importantly, when something breaks in the van, you just pull over at the next exit and fix it. Buy what you need, take it to a shop, it's done. On a boat, you have to have spares for everything. We bring pumps and O-rings and filters and fuses, which I blew one pretty bad installing this charging station that I built. So we're having this nice little music night, and I get this overwhelming urge to build the ultimate charging station. I took a bunch of 12-volt chargers and screwed them into a wooden frame. I even wired in some breakers for safety. See the frame inside? I skinned it. With plywood, 1/4 inch. I wired it. We are never gonna run out of USB, USB-C, or 12-volt adapter plugs. This is enough to charge probably 30 devices, maybe more. All sorts of fuses for safety.
Best Buy for $59.95 and bought it. So.
It's like 2 in the morning by the time I get it all wired in, and I'm exhausted because it's our first night there. All right, we're wired in. All right, this will turn it on, and I just broke something. Gosh darn it.
You turned it on.
All right, we broke something. All we knew was that something had shorted somewhere in the boat, so I started checking fuses and testing breakers everywhere I could find them, but I didn't know where they all were, so I'm just following wire around. We end up in the engine room, in the electrical panel, in the wiring closet, under the bed. I didn't even know what half of these breakers did. What does green mean? Does green mean good? We had no power on the boat at all. Not the best thing when you're anchored out in the middle of nowhere. 2 hours, I've been tracing all of these cables. I just found it. Watch, I'm gonna test for voltage. On this side, I've got 12 volts. And then when I go down here, no more 12 volts. That means this fuse is blown. We can hardwire it for tonight until we get a fuse. Not very safe, but at least we get power for the fridges, for the bilge pumps, for the anchor. The joys of boat ownership. We start rummaging through all of our bags of electronic parts and actually find a 100 amp breaker, which is the exact size of the fuse that blew. 100. I have a 100 amp breaker. It took another hour to figure out how to pull that fuse and fuse holder and get the new breaker installed. But every repair on a boat ends up like this. It always takes at least 3 times as long and turns into this big ordeal. I'm gonna flip this switch, and if it works, then all the lights should turn back on. Okay, come on, please. Oh, I hear a fan going. That fan's on. Cabin lights. Oh, yes. Oh my God, I did it. I freaking did it. You will always be fixing something on your boat. So point Vanlife.
You did. Good job.
We have to go pick up the kids from school. But I want to talk about prep time. Buying a boat and getting it ready for sailing versus buying a van and building it out. The van probably took us a couple of months. Before this trip to San Blas, we spent over a year fixing this boat. So don't think you can just buy a boat and start cruising. The van, on the other hand, we were out there that first weekend in the parking lot of a Buc-ee's with an air mattress in the back cargo area. So if you're wanting to get out there and just start immediately, Boatlife might not be the right option. So which one is better? Is it van life or is it boat life? If we can go back and we knew then what we know now, would we be boat lifers or van lifers?
We do both.
the van life because it's cozy and we can get to more places than the boat can. But the boat can actually get you to different countries. If I had to choose between the two, I would choose boat life. But can't we do both?
That's actually my dream, the best of both worlds. You get a boat that's big enough to carry your van. I mean, there's like super yachts that carry helicopters and jet skis and mini boats, but I've never seen a super yacht with a car on it. My friend Colin, who has the same boat, actually put a motorcycle aboard one time and did a passage. He's got an entire motorcycle on his boat. Boy, the stories we have behind this motorcycle. But I can't fit a family of 6 on a motorcycle. If you're looking for the best bang for the buck, Vanlife crushes it. It wins every single time, and you can do it much faster. But if you want the most epic of epic adventures, then Boatlife cannot be beat. We're talking hidden waterfalls, bonfires on deserted islands.
Have fire, baby.
Catching your own lobster in the middle of the day, or just floating around in between a bunch of random islands.